We're going to get started with the eyebrow lifter and filler in Ivory Light. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in my natural brows, going a little bit outside the lines because I wanted them to be a little bit bolder. You don't have to worry about any extra lines outside of your eyebrows because we'll clear them up later. Now I'm going to use the eyelash and brow wand to kind of groom them upwards. Then I'm going to use the flat eyeliner brush and HD lifting concealer in Fair to sculpt out the shape of the brows. This helps you erase any mistakes that you made and gives it a really crisp line. And you don't have to worry too much about blending out the concealer because we're going to be covering the concealer later on with foundation. Then I'm going to be using the Wet Gloss Lash and Brow Clear Mascara to set the brows. Then I'm going to be using the Eyelid Primer in Sheer. This primer works really well, you just have to let it dry before you try to put eyeshadow on. The eyeshadow I'm using is the 18 Shadow Palette. I'll go ahead and show it here in a moment. And then I'm going to be using the transition color, the third one in the top row. It's a light brown. I'm going to be using the Flawless Concealer brush to go ahead and put that brown all over my transition crease. Now we're going to be building on top of this, so you'll barely see this at the end, but it gives you a nice outline to work with. So just blend that up and out. I'm using the first shadow in the second row. It's a shimmery lavender to go ahead and sculpt out that the crease a little bit more. I'm using the Professional Blending Eye Brush. It's from an old collection, but it's a smaller brush so that it won't cover all of the brown you just put on. Now I'm going to use the second one in the bottom row. It's a mauve color with the same brush, and I'm going to get in the corner and then really, really deep in that crease. Use windshield wiping motions to get that blended out. Then I'm going to use that big fluffy brush again and blend everything out before I put on my darker corner color. The corner color is the first one in the last row, and it's a dark brown purple color. And I'm using the contour brush to put that in the corner of my eye. Now you have to dip this a few times to get it dark enough, and there is a lot of fallout in this shadow, so you'll have to wipe your face later on. And once again, I'm going to blend that with the big fluffy brush we used for the brown shadow at the beginning. Now I'm using the Professional Eyeshadow brush to do the lid. It's the second eyeshadow in the second row. Just go ahead and tap that right on the lid and don't get too far into the crease. Now we have a special appearance from Turbo. And moving on, we're using a Pigment eyeshadow in Naturally Nude and the Eyeshadow C brush to tap that on. Now I'm using the first shadow in the first row and the defining eye brush from the eyeshadow kit to do my brows. I should say my brow bone. Then I'm going to be doing a bottom liner. It's the Kohl eyeliner in black. Now you only want to go halfway down your eye because if you use the pencil to go all the way, it's going to be way too smoky and dramatic for this look. So we will just smudge it down on the other end of that pencil. We'll smudge it down to the corner of the eye so it's not quite as dramatic. Then I'm going to be using that first one in the third row again and a Professional Eye Crease brush to smoke out that bottom lash line. Then I'm going to be using the third one in the top row that we used at the very beginning and go over that one more time just to make sure it's really nice and blended out. Now I'm going to be using the cream eyeliner in black and a small angled brush to do my top liner. Sometimes that helps to get the brush wet first before you start doing this. It makes it really crisp. It looks difficult and I look a little bit crazy doing this, but it's actually very easy once you get the hang of it. Once you get the hang of the angle of the brush and how much product to have on your brush, it gets quite easy and it's a really fun way to do your liner. Now I didn't have enough liner on my brush, so I had to re-dip it in order to get it really black and crisp. On this look, I didn't do a cat eye or anything like that with the liner. I stuck with my natural lash line. And then I went in towards the inner corner, but I made sure not to touch the tear duct because I didn't want that to be too smoky on the inner eye. I really wanted the up and out lifted look. Okay, next I'm using the Mineral Face Primer in Clear. It's a really good primer. I just press it into my face and all the areas that I know my facial expressions usually crease my foundation. Now this foundation took me the longest amount of time to put on. I used the Flawless Finish foundation in the shade Porcelain. It's lighter than my actual face color because my face is really red, but my neck is kind of yellow, and so it matches my neck really well. So I really love this foundation. I use the angled foundation brush to put it on. Normally I use a big fat flat kabuki brush to put my foundation on, and it goes really quickly. This brush is different and it took me a little bit longer to put my foundation on, but the end result was really nice because with this brush you can sculpt out under the eye and over the brow. I'm using it now to sculpt the side of my eye where the eyeshadow should stop, and then I use my finger to soften that line. It just makes it so that it's really clean around your eyes. So really just work this foundation. It turns out really nicely once you work it into your skin. And then this is where you can cover the concealer from when you did your brows. You can use this brush to really get in there and cover up that concealer so that it's not two different colors up there where you sculpted your brows. I also like this brush because it's really nice to kind of blend that foundation into my hairline. I don't like to have any sort of line there by my hairline, and this is a nice natural way to kind of blend that up and in, and then I just use my fingers to kind of feather it upwards. Next, I'm using the HD concealer that we used before for our brows. And I'm getting that right in the corner of my eye and then kind of painting it like war paint down my cheekbone. Normally I use a beauty blender to blend the concealer in, but e.l.f. doesn't have one. So I'm using my finger and made sure it was really warm at the beginning. That's why I kind of rubbed it against my hand. Now you just want to pat it down into your skin as opposed to rubbing it, because if you rub it, you'll pull it off and you'll ruin your foundation. So just keep patting until it's nice and blended in. I do it in between my brows as well to kind of even out my concealer. And I use my finger to blend that in. And I also use my finger to fix the eyebrow that I just messed up. So get that nice and blended, and of course do your other eye. And then when that's all done, I use the High Definition Under Eye Setting Powder in Sheer. This is an awesome under eye set, and it's a highlighter as well. So I use the small tapered brush to put that in, and I blend it really well. Now apparently this is my favorite. I'm really excited about the High Definition powder. It's in sheer and I do really love it. It's a nice fine powder and it makes your skin just look really airbrushed. So I put that everywhere outside of the area that I put the under eye powder. And make sure you blend it really well so you don't look too white. Now I'm using a bronzer and blush duo that I got in a holiday set. It came with a brush. So that's nice. And I use the blush brush to put on the bronzer and really sculpt out my cheekbones. And then I put some on my forehead as well to make sure it's evened out and I look more sun-kissed instead of just contoured. I also put some on my chin, along my jawline, and then I put it on the sides of my nose to kind of elongate my nose a little bit and make it look a little bit thinner. That's a nice little trick if you've got a larger nose like I do. Now I'm going to use the same duo with the blush and an angled blush brush to put that on. I like to stick to my cheekbones because, like I said, I'm naturally very red in the face, and so I don't like to put too much on the apples of my cheeks. I like to keep it along the cheekbones and my temples. Next, I'm using the Baked Highlighter in Blush Gems. This is an awesome highlighter, and I put it on using a fan brush. You can kind of see it glittering in the camera, the extra runoff from that highlighter. It's just a really awesome highlighter, and it makes you look really glowing from within. Now I'm going to curl my lashes using an e.l.f. curler, which works really well, and it's very inexpensive, so I would recommend that. And then the mascara I'm using is the Mineral Infused Mascara in Black. Now, I look crazy when I put on my mascara. I flare my nostrils and I blink 1,000 times, but there is a method to my madness. I get that wand really close and I blink, blink, blink so that I get a lot of volume, a lot of lift, a lot of separation. That's what everybody wants for mascara, right? So that's why I do it that way. And then, of course, I do my bottom lashes, and it takes me a couple coats to get it right. Then I'm going to use the first shadow from the first row to do my inner corner. It's just a very nice highlight in there. And you can see how it's all nice and blended out at the end. Now for my lips, I chose to do a lip balm in pink because I wanted very low maintenance lips that I could reapply throughout the evening without a mirror. And there we have our finished look. I hope you enjoyed.